Hi, friends. Welcome to the Wellness Inspired Podcast. I'm your host, Sheri Davidson. And as always, I am here with my co-host, Finn. And who is Finn? If you're new to the podcast, well, if you don't know, he's my terrier mix rescue dog and very loyal companion. And we are super excited you are here today because I had a great conversation with Kimberly Phipps-Nichol about biophilic design. Now, this topic is not new to the podcast. In episode 7, I had another great conversation with Jackie Berry on biophilic design. In that episode, we talked about our connection to nature and how to incorporate natural elements into our environment for health benefits. And what benefits do we get from bringing the outdoor in? Well, it can help lower blood pressure, reduce stress, increase the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, increase recovery time and better healing outcomes. It can decrease pain medication and hospital stays. It can improve cognitive performance, enhance moods, and enhance creativity. So if you're interested, check out episode 7 with Jackie Berry. Now on to this episode. Biophilic design has another important aspect. That is sustainability. Nature is amazing. It does not waste anything, and it is incredibly efficient. So let's look to nature for guidance. Biophilic design can help create more sustainable built environments by incorporating features like natural daylight and ventilation. Biophilic design can reduce our reliance on energy-intensive systems like artificial lighting and air conditioning. In addition, using materials that are locally sourced and environmentally friendly can help to reduce the environmental impact of a built environment. So ultimately, biophilic design is about creating healthy, comfortable, and sustainable spaces that support the health and well-being of both people and the planet. Kimberly is a commercial interior designer, full of experience, passion, and expertise. I have to say, I learned a lot in this conversation, and I hope you do too. But before I fully introduce you to her and jump into the conversation, I have a teaser for upcoming episodes. Are you familiar with Feng Shui? It is the Chinese art and practice of spatial arrangement orientation and the relation to the flow of energy or qi to create a sense of balance and harmony. And one important goal of Feng Shui is to promote health and wellness by improving the flow of energy in your environment. To help us understand this, I invited Frankie Hickson, a Feng Shui practitioner here in Houston, onto the podcast to talk about the benefits of Feng Shui for health. So please tune in. It's going to be a great episode. Also coming up, I have a running adventure report from my trail race in Colorado. It was the inaugural Durango Skyline Trail Race. I did the 30K. My friend Jason did the 50K, and my friend Kathleen and Jason's wife did the 50-miler. This report will be a little different because I'm doing it with my two friends, Kathleen and Jason. We did the race together, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about it together. Because one of the things that keeps me running is my friends. So I hope you join us for that episode as well. Okay, so now I'd like to fully introduce you to Kimberly. I have known Kimberly for probably going on 3 years now. But it wasn't until I sat down and had this conversation with her and read her bio that I realized how integrated her life is, how authentic her life is. You know, you can't talk about one part of her life without talking about the other. And I love that. I think it's amazing. I have a great appreciation for that. And I am sure that you will find that as well. So Kimberly is the owner of Blue Water Studios, a commercial design and planning firm. Blue Water Studio exists to create beautiful, responsible designs that are specially tailored to each client, building, and community. She is a daughter of a pediatric nurse and respiratory therapist. Kimberly grew up working in several healthcare facilities. Early on, she witnessed numerous ailments that were suspicious in origin. Many of these ailments seemingly exacerbated by occupancy within certain buildings or near polluting industries. This experience left a lasting impression that underscores Kimberly's purpose in healthy, sustainable built environments. Beyond owning Blue Water Studio, Kimberly is also co-founder of Houston Hemporium, a retail space celebrating all things hemp. And she does this with her husband, Dr. Wynn Tom Griggs. They aim to educate and elevate the conversation about hemp. And it is a perfect fit for Kimberly's goal to make every possible experience or material more sustainable for their clients. And that's not all. In addition to these fun adventures, Kimberly is also co-founder of Roki Design. Roki is a silk scarf accessory company that aims to produce sustainable wearable works of art while supporting nonprofit organizations, collaborating with amazing artists, and repurposing vintage luxury scarves. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you do too. So without further ado, let's jump in. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Sheri. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the podcast. I am so glad we finally made this happen.
I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, we're going to talk about biophilic design.
Yes.
And for people who don't know, biophilia was a term coined by Edward Wilson. Mm-hmm. And it was our innate connection to nature and that we seek it out.
Yes. Yes.
And then there's biophilic design,
yeah,
which is the practice of connecting people and nature within our built environments and our communities.
Right.
So I had a podcast. It was episode 7 with Jackie Berry. We talked about biophilic design. She is a interior designer and a landscape designer. Yeah. So we're going to talk about biophilic design again. We'll throw a different spin on it. So I think what I would like to do is allow you to introduce yourself and tell people who you are, and then we'll jump in.
Awesome. Well, like I said before, thank you again for the invite. So my name is Kimberly Phipps-Nichol, and I am the lucky lady who is full owner of a design studio here in Houston called Blue Water Studio, and that practice focuses on design and planning for commercial real estate projects. I don't do any residential because I don't have that kind of patience.
It takes a lot of patience.
It takes a lot of patience and hand-holding. I really admire residential designers. They have a capacity that I don't have.
I did corporate design.
Yes.
I did corporate design, and then I did 1 year of residential when I was in Austin.
Right? Yeah. It's so different.
It's very different.
It's so different.
Yeah.
So I love commercial design because it's about the business case, and you know your approach is different.
Yeah.
So that's what Blue Water Studio focuses on, and we're really in the healthcare, community, and sustainability space. And so any type of project that really checks those boxes, we are certainly interested in, and focusing mostly on smaller type projects. I don't need a whole office building, a multiple floor type project sort of thing to be fulfilled. So that's Blue Water Studio, and I actually started that in 2004. In Northern Nevada.
Okay.
And so I love that. It's always been plan A for me. And so I love being on plan A for design. So I went to design school straight out of high school. And so I'm coming up on my 29th year of being in design.
Congratulations.
So
That's
excited. Yeah, it is. It's a
time.
lot. Well, I turned 50 this year. So it's like big year all around and so much fun. And I really love.
So much experience.
Oh, yes. Oh, boy, have I seen some things. And then the other two businesses, which still, again, sort of orbit around the idea of sustainability, which in my family, I grew up with sailors and outdoors folks. And
I love this story. I was
Well, it's about leaving it better than you found it.
Yes.
And being so responsible and responsive to the earth that is our home, really. Yeah. And so we, with that in mind, my husband and I launched Houston Hemporium in October of 2019, which is pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Try launching a retail sort of brick and mortar type space, not an online store, but real brick and mortar, because for us it was about being a resource. So Houston Hemporium is really about educating and elevating the conversation around hemp.
I think
CBD.
that's so important.
Yes, and the education.
Yeah.
Because when you can make an informed decision, then you feel like you're exerting personal control over yourself. And it seems like these days we've lost a lot of that as humanity, and we're really looking for ways to be able to get control of our lives back. And then the third company that I'm a partner in is called Roki Design. And we specialize in silk scarves and accessories. Mm-hmm. And those are both new production items for collaborations like with nonprofit organizations. So I'm a stroke survivor. And so we produced a scarf in partnership with the American Heart Association and their Go Red for Women luncheon event. So that Heart and Bloom scarf was a way that we could use our ability to create something beautiful to also give back to something that's very meaningful, because the Heart Association here in Houston is who helped sponsor the mobile stroke unit that was called To Save My Life.
Oh, really?
And so that's why I always love supporting, especially healthcare type nonprofits, but the Heart and Stroke Association, they're actually one organization. They have two branches. And so because of that, I love that the Heart Association funded the stroke units, because those are super critical. They have additional training and medications on board that if it really looks like someone is having a stroke, that they're able to administer those before you even get on the ambulance to get to the hospital. And when it comes to things like stroke and heart, that's life-saving.
It's life-saving,
yes. And so with Roki Design, we do things like nonprofit, like I mentioned, or collaborate with both up-and-coming or established artists to create their art on silk as a wearable piece of art. And then one of my favorite things, which is repurpose, where I get to work with a lot of vintage luxury silk scarves and make new things out of them. And that could be a big thing like a pillow, because the scarf is largely in good shape, or if I find something that's really not in good shape, and I can make smaller things out of it, lapel pins and little purses and headbands and all sorts of things that allow us to keep things, even if they are not in their most beautiful state as they are, repurposing them and celebrating them in a different way and giving it new life, keeping stuff out of the landfill, which is super important.
Yes.
And then that comes all the way back into design again, because one of the books I brought with me actually is Natural Capitalism, which I love. And Paul Hawken partnered with Amory and Hunter Levins back when they were still married and created this great book. But they talk about biomimicry.
I've heard of that before.
So their definition of biomimicry is reducing the wasteful throughput of materials. Indeed, eliminating the very idea of waste. It can be accomplished by redesigning industrial systems on biological lines that change the nature of the industrial process and materials, and enabling the constant reuse of materials in continuous closed cycles, and often the elimination of toxicity. And we hear little blurbs about things like circular fashion, which is closed cycles, these loops. How do we keep things from causing deforestation or degradation in the original use, and how do we keep them from becoming waste afterwards? Because in nature, truly in nature, there is no waste.
There's no waste.
Waste is food for the next round. And so by taking that approach and being more responsible, just trying to do our part.
And it's efficient. Nature's efficient.
Nature is extremely efficient.
Yeah.
I loved during the pandemic, when a lot of us had to be indoors a lot, some of the new studies or really I guess you could call them films or just fun little programming on mushrooms and the fungus and like the world underneath the soil.
It's amazing.
It is.
Have you seen the mycelium furniture?
You know what? I have seen mycelium furniture. I've also seen it used for insulation purposes.
Interesting.
It's fascinating. And kind of like coming back to the hemp too, hemp has thousands of uses.
Yeah.
And being in the built environment as my main industry, I love learning about all the different ways that you can use hemp.
So I have to stop you because I started to say this earlier. You probably know that I'm going to ask you to tell the story about your family's history in hemp because it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am fortunate to have a very well documented family tree So I didn't have to go through all the genealogy tests and the 23andMe, because my mom is one of those folks who had her entire family tree, all sides, all branches, all roots, everything, to be from original Massachusetts Bay Colony founding families. So we are talking early to mid 1600s. At that time, if you were a colonist, then you were expected to grow hemp. Hemp was known worldwide as one of the strongest fibers you could possibly have. It really rivals, and a lot of people don't realize how strong silk is. And so hemp and silk are both
so delicate.
Well, that's what you think. And then silk and glass, when created in very long, thin strand forms and then twisted, extraordinary tensile strength. So it's another thing that is just amazing about natural materials.
Well, it's kind of like the egg, right? Like it's very fragile, but you can put all this pressure.
Right.
Like I think it's from the top to the bottom, and you can't break it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
you break it from the outside, it's a bad thing. When broken from the inside, it starts new life. And so it's really interesting that approach. And so we were hemp farmers. I'm actually descended from a number of founding families, and my family were Adams and Phipps. And so growing hemp, especially for sales and ropes, I'm not proud of my family having been whalers, but we were whalers at a time when whale oil was really important for being able to get work done at night and being able to have cooking oil and all of those things.
It's where we were.
It's where we were. It's most unfortunate, but it is where we were. And so I have a lot of really interesting, deep family roots in that New England area, but hemp has been part of it until it was really, unfortunately, grouped together with, as it was called, marijuana with an H, and made illegal in the late 1930s. And so we had a little brief sort of relief of that, where we had the Hemp for Victory push during World War II. And that was because in the Pacific Theater, we couldn't get our hemp from the Philippines anymore, which is where the vast majority of our hemp was coming from after 1937 and up to World War II. So had that, worked great. Then they just said, you have to stop growing it again. So it was really kind of ridiculous. And then in the 80s and 90s, Canada and especially British Columbia were like, you know what? We're going to do this industrial hemp thing, and really opened my eyes, because I was coming through high school and college at the time and trying to learn all sorts of things that I could about materiality, because I was studying design, and learned that they were growing and producing hemp fiber up there. And it was like finally something that was on our own continent, because really, if we wanted hemp here in the West as a fabric, we had to order it from China and India, the main places that really didn't stop production of hemp fiber. And so there are still a lot of manufacturers in both of those countries that work in hemp. Really, though, my favorite hemp comes from Italy. I will say they, because they're such a part of the Silk Road, and they have really worked to refine how they spin and weave hemp fibers with silk, so it's soft and it's yummy and it feels really good. So,
and you're going to Italy in a week?
I am. I leave for Italy 1 week from today, because my business partner Rosalind and I, in the Roki silk design, we already have one silk mill up in the Lake Como area that we work with. We'll be interviewing a couple of more, so that we are doing some advanced work in hopes that production needs increase to the point that we need to make sure that we have some backup plans. But really, the first question that we asked when we were looking at these mills is what their environmental certifications are, because we want to make sure that the products that we're producing are being done so in a responsible manner. We like, meaning one of the purposes of visiting the mill is to also ensure that it's not sweatshop conditions, which largely in these older silk mills in Italy, that's not going to be a problem, because they're really proud of their work and they love it, and people do this for generations. So we're super excited to go and meet these folks in person and really see how these things are made beyond
nice.
the traditional sort of videos that you can
Yeah.
see. So we're looking forward to
there's
that.
a lot of history, like you said,
Yes,
there.
Silk
It's
Road.
a lot of experience, and their regulations are different.
They are, especially environmental processing regulations. You know, in a lot of places, they want what's called process water, which is the water used during the process of creating whatever you're manufacturing, especially in Europe. They really want that process water that comes out of the plant to be cleaner than when it went in, potentially drinkable. And so that means that, you know, those heavy metals and dyes and those kinds of things are no bueno there, which we feel very good about too, because obviously we don't want to contribute to that.
Yeah, that's your whole mission, not to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole idea is my personal mission with any business that I'm involved in is that it has to move me emotionally and spiritually, challenge me mentally, but really sustainability is always what I'm going for.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really great, and your passion really comes through with that. And I think that's important because a lot of people put that on their brand and on their label, and they don't have that passion. They don't really care.
We call that greenwashing.
Is that green?
And that's been a problem for many, many years.
Yeah.
I think really even in our design industry, it's called LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which is a certification process for buildings where you can really kind of create a measurable scorecard on the decisions that you've made along the way and how they will be more responsible and improve the impact on the humans who are occupying it rather than just going in as status quo. Because really business as usual is why we're having some of these accelerated climate change problems, whether it's fashion or whether it is the built environment and construction. Both of those industries are exceedingly responsible for everything from dirty process water to just wholesale absolute destruction of where raw materials come from in order to harvest them or use them. And so trying to be more connected to how the things are made and then more responsible is it might be a little role, but every step matters. And we have to do what we can, right?
We can only do what we can.
We should be doing what we can. I'm not saying that we all do, but we should hopefully. So
do you? Well, I know LEED is for businesses.
LEED is for buildings in general.
In general, so it could be a home.
So there is LEED for homes. Okay. There is LEED for neighborhood developments. So you can create an entire development that's designed on these responsible principles. It's called LEED ND. Okay. But there is also LEED for homes, which I had experience because when I said earlier that I don't do residential, I have done design for multifamily housing, which is kind of that really interesting space between commercial and residential because I'm designing for the developer and the investment group rather than for individual units. And we're creating sort of standards and expectations. But I'm not going through and picking fabric colors with residential clients, which I don't have the patience for.
Yeah. You need it?
Yes, you absolutely do. I honor them greatly. I don't know how they do it.
So your clients, are people asking for it?
It's funny, moving to Texas, Houston, but really Texas specifically, 10 years ago. I moved here from the Northern Nevada, Northern California area. So all of my projects prior to moving here, it was an expectation. It just was expected that even if you didn't want a certification or to have something that the plaque that you hang on your door, you would design and build to those standards and then utilize the money you would have spent on certification on some other component within that to make it more impactful. And so LEED really is for buildings in that regard, but it is not as embraced here in Texas. But what is interesting is we are seeing more folks understand the impact of the built environment on the occupants. And so we see a new process called
Is that well design?
Well design, which really allows owners and operators to focus on creating a better built environment for the occupants and the business's bottom line. And some of the environmental responsibility is easily fits into that. But you do have certain conflicts, like the early lead process. Its focus on energy efficiency was a little bit of a sacrifice in the occupant experience because of how they would condition spaces, right? And how they would do their lighting. And so just because it's more energy efficient by the numbers doesn't mean it's more effective for the people who are actually occupying the space. And all business owners know our people are our biggest cost. Right. More so than our space. Yeah, and so if I can positively impact my people with my space, it's almost like a dual savings. Yeah. And so really thinking about how I create a hopefully an inspiring and enlightening and wonderful space for those occupants will mean that the business financially benefits by people are happier at work. They're healthier at work. They're not missing days because they're in a toxic environment that's off-gassing and causing them to have migraines and asthma attacks and all of those things. So it really is beneficial.
Improves cognition.
Absolutely.
Creativity.
Absolutely. All of those things.
All those things reduces stress.
Right. But the idea is that because you're focusing on the human element rather than just being perceived as some sort of tree hugger, which I like to hug trees. I think they're beautiful and I love trees. But not everyone uses that as a decision-making point in their business. And so you have to meet people where they are. Yeah. You have to understand what's important to each business owner that you're designing for so that you're really being appropriate in your concepts and solutions.
Yeah. It seems like the well design is more human-centered.
Very much so.
And
very much
lead is more about the numbers and efficiency and environment.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I think we will eventually see a really interesting connection, collaboration, and maybe marriage of some of our existing certification programs. We did see that with healthcare, Lead for Healthcare, and the Green Guide for Healthcare, and those pilot programs eventually kind of became one. And so I got to work on a pilot project for the Green Guide for Healthcare, which was a small clinic. It was really interesting going through that process. And we were always looking at alignments versus differences across that certification. But by the time we were done, they had come together.
So what was it called? Green
Guide, GGHC, Green Guide for Healthcare, which it doesn't exist in that format anymore because it became so married merged with Lead for Healthcare.
And so what did that tell our listeners, and including me, because I don't know what that is.
So healthcare projects, you talk about like the extra whammies. Healthcare projects can be more challenging to design because we have so many additional codes and expectations that either come from the state health department specifically, or that the clients are asking for because their patients have things like multiple chemical sensitivities, or we need to think about the materiality of what we're putting into an infusion space at the cancer hospital because these folks are so immunocompromised from their treatments that they could be more exposed to off-gassing and those kinds of things. So Green Guide for Healthcare really looked at that, but it also looked at that output. Remember how we were talking about processed water and manufacturing? In healthcare, that's extremely difficult because a lot of things have to be incinerated. There's a ton of plastic waste because of the way that they prepare surgical instruments and all of that. And trust me, sterile spaces are hugely important when the body is exposed and those elements are out there. So I understand that there are things that still have to be done. So what do we do with those waste products so that we're not complicating the environment, and whether it has to do with incineration and like a waste heat recovery system that doesn't allow the off-gassing of the products that are being burned, or there are different approaches for how they can turn some of the either maybe a rooftop space or some of the property at the back end into a garden where they can grow some of the food for the hospital on site. So it's cool. It's really cool. It's a great process. And like I said, it was fun being a part of one of those pilot projects.
Yeah.
Total like naturopathic doctor space, you would have really dug that clinic. So but people are they're more likely to accept it if they understand the human element rather than just painting the environmental picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk to a client, I'm assuming because this is a mission of yours, and I'm sure you're very upfront with it, right? It is something that you are on track to do to make the world a better place.
I hope so.
A healthier place, right?
Right.
How do you, when you meet somebody, how do you begin to tell them, or what am I trying to ask you here? Like, how do they choose you because of that? I guess is my question. Like,
that's a great question. I could say here in Texas, I have had a couple of people choose me because of that. So for instance, the intersection of healthcare and sustainability really meets at places like fertility clinics, because a lot of folks don't realize that within the interior environment of a fertility clinic, even paints and adhesives, they can off-gas certain materials that can cause the premature death of the goods in the lab. And so you're creating a very specific environment in those. It's almost like a microclimate. It's a very highly controlled airlock system, that sort of a thing. Because obviously people are entrusting you with their components to be able to hopefully become pregnant in the future. Sure. And so the sustainability side of it is a supernatural fit for places like fertility clinics, because they in some cases have higher requirements for materials that don't off-gas than even some environmental ones, because they're not in business if they're harvesting egg and sperm and then they die in the lab because of off-gassing materials, right? So that's where you see them come together, and people are specifically looking for someone who has that kind of experience. But by and large, when it's offices or community spaces or those kinds of things, for me, we talk about it on our website, but it's really about, I simply don't keep reference materials in my library that I don't think are passing my health and wellness expectations anyway. So I simply don't specify products that I don't feel measure up to a health and healthy indoor environment, right?
So it's just something you do.
It's just something we do. And if it's a standalone building where you have an opportunity to create that connection between the indoors and the outdoors, and you can do more biophilic connection and really help invest in the people by creating that connection and making it more accessible, then we absolutely do that. But sometimes you're in an office building where you're just a small suite in a huge building. And so all we're doing is working with you and the contractor and the landlord on what can we do for light fixtures? What can we do for HVAC controls and comfort controls? And then how do I design the most physically efficient, I'm sure that you had this in your time in design. You know, you get the existing floor plan for a space, and then you look at the program the client has given you. And ideally, if I'm looking at a lot of second generation space, especially if those spaces are older, I really am trying to be creative about reusing as many components as possible, even if the feel is going to be totally different. If there is a way that I can repurpose the materials, like take all the interior doors, for example, if I can reuse those in some way more creatively. But demolition of walls always means there's trash, always means there's a strain on the HVAC system. So how do we creatively reuse as many components as possible without sacrificing the program and really making it feel like it was designed for them? So that's another way too, is thinking about creative, respectful reuse and not just going in and flattening everything and starting from scratch.
It's so interesting because I did design a long time ago. I've been out of it for, a long time.
A hot minute. It's Houston. It's a hot minute.
A few hot minutes. But I don't remember thinking about design in that way. I mean, I've always been connected to nature. I have a biophilic response. I mean, I just got back from Colorado.
Yeah,
I did a race there. So I was in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I just love it. Like I've always been that way. So when I was going through design school, a lot of my projects, I would incorporate more of the natural elements, right? But I never thought about the sustainability and the breaking down of walls and the trash. And, I never thought about any of that until just now.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. And it makes me be more mindful now and conscious of like what happens when you do that.
Yep.
One of my complaints about Houston, and I love Houston, I'm a native Houstonian, is we tear everything down.
Yeah.
Everything.
And because we don't have historical structures like some of the older, bigger cities, like a New York or a Philly or a Boston, we don't have as many emotional connections
Maybe that's
to those spaces. And so we don't see them as precious and valued, and the need to preserve them.
Yeah.
That was a similar experience. So when I tell people I lived in Northern Nevada, people are like, "Oh, did you work in Vegas?" And I was like, "No. I never did a project in Vegas."
Yeah.
And that's because Las Vegas whole ethos is about a complete reinvention of itself every so many years or decades. And that is highly destructive.
Yeah.
And I never really wanted to participate in projects where it was just a constant raising of everything that was there and rebuilding new again. I wanted to be more creative in that. And I love older buildings.
I do too.
Like
there's
we
so
talked
much
about.
character.
My family is from Boston and New York, 1600s. It's like there's a lot of beauty and there's energy in those spaces, which I really, really love.
And diversity, because you might have a really old building and then the modern building next to it.
Yes.
Like, I love that.
Yes.
But
you see that in some really cool European cities
Really?
where, they have done a really good job of preserving some of the buildings, and then they'll come in with this beautiful glass box structure next to it that's very modern. The juxtaposition of those two, I think, just makes both of them more beautiful. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. Well, I love that just in interior design. Like I love rustic with modern. Yeah. That's my thing,
Absolutely.
And I love small spaces with big pieces. Yeah, which is really weird. Like I live in an old 1930s apartment.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
How cool.
The architect's name is still on it. And
that's neat.
My landlord, he is John. I don't know if you know John Dill, but John Dill. Yeah. So it's one of his properties.
Oh, very cool.
And
very cool.
he bought it when it was run down at a good price.
Yep.
And he restored it.
Exactly.
And I love it there.
We have a number of developers here in the Houston area that are more savvy like that, where they really, instead of just going out and buying raw land all the time and waving their magic wand and coming up with some new thing, they really do consider like all the old warehouses and grain spaces in the arts district and all of that. If we can celebrate them, like the old coffee building and like all of these things, I love that. I just really, I love being in those spaces.
Yeah, I do too. There's just something special about it.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's really great. So we talked a little bit about the sustainability piece of biophilic design, but let's jump into the space itself and that kind of human-centered design and how incorporating more natural elements. Like my space is very biophilic. I have
this huge glass wall.
Huge glass wall.
Yes.
That overlooks a courtyard.
Little courtyard.
Yeah, it's really great. And I actually talk about on my website, I talk about biophilic design because I really believe in the healing power of nature.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about that. And
well, we are nature.
We are. You're right. You're absolutely.
Really are.
We are.
And so when we have spent so much time creating this division of space and separating ourselves from nature, I think our bodies and our minds and our spirits have really been crying out to us. I'm going to say at least for the last 30 to 40 years, if not more. Really, I know it's terrible because we're here in the South, right? But air conditioning changed our relationship with occupied space, because we when pre-air conditioning, we had to naturally ventilate our homes, our apartments. We had operable windows. We had fans. We had transom windows over our doors on the interior environment because hot air rises. And so as it rises during the day, you
what
open
those
the
were
transom
for.
windows and let the hot air out, right?
That makes sense.
And then you try to have lower, cooler air come in and flush the space. And so, and that actually is why I love, there are some really interesting naturally ventilated buildings. It doesn't work in all places. I understand that. But air conditioning really changed our relationship with the outdoor environment. And I think so many of us, going back a few generations now, never had no air conditioning. So we wouldn't even understand how to use the locations of the windows in our spaces if they were operable in the first place, to use them at different times and in different ways to create that natural air flush in the spaces. So that, and especially that, boy, once you had the air conditioning, right, you created the ability to have skyscrapers with sealed and entirely sealed envelope, which is a real disconnect from the outdoors. If I can't open a window. So when I go to like New York, San Francisco, a lot of these older cities, I specifically ask the hotel, do your rooms have operable windows? Yes, I realize in some cities you don't want that necessarily because of the smog. But for me, I like hearing the city. When I wake up in the morning, I want to open the window and hear the city awakening with me, because that connection.
That's a connection.
Yeah. And so I'm very grateful that I still have all of my senses at capacity to be able to see how beautiful the city is, hear it, feel it, of course, taste it. Great food. But that's been I think the biggest challenge with people's connection to the environment and what has happened in the built environment. So we definitely have people asking questions like, do you think we could do a rooftop garden? So then it comes down to, do you own the building?
Right.
If you don't own the building, then this is a landlord conversation. And then if the landlord's open to the conversation, then the very next question that you do is ask them is, who's your structural engineer? Because you have, just because a building has a flat roof does not mean that it can have a rooftop garden, because of the weight of the materials and the water and all of those things. And so, that is probably one of the number one amenities that we're seeing newly requested. Like Texas and rooftop gardens, you wouldn't necessarily think that they go together, but a lot of people are also connecting the heat island effect, which is, this phenomenon where areas of high density urban environments can range wildly in temperatures within the same city. And so you can have a really dense urban core that's 10 to 15 degrees warmer than some of the outlying areas where you have access to parks, older trees, or closeness to the bayous, or things that allow for breeze movement or air refresh in a way that the dense urban core doesn't. So it's really interesting having people asking about rooftop gardens.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and food's getting so expensive now. We
Definitely. I know I've grown kale and okra and basil and lettuce in my backyard right now. Well, I live in a townhome, so in containers on my patio. But yeah, same thing.
We need some gardens, maybe some rooftop gardens. Yeah,
we do. And let us not forget the healing power of getting dirty. Okay, so this is one thing that societally I think that we've really gone sideways on is we don't let our kids get real dirty. And there are still, a lot of savvy parents and places where they get it. But the microbes in that dirt,
so important.
They help the human body create resistance to things like viruses and bacteria, because they give them very, very, very low dose exposures in safe spaces in a long period of time. And that's super important for, building up that personal immunity. And so like my stepdad, he's in his mid 80s. He grew up on a farm, right? And so he has been around farm life for so long that he really hasn't been sick very much. Like he's had some heart challenges or those kinds of things. But when you talk about like flus and colds and all that kind of stuff, he grew up in the dirt, working really hard from a young age. And I'm not saying farm life is for everybody, but I loved getting dirty as a kid. And I think especially for our young girls, they need to know that getting dirty is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I was on a Zoom call. I think this was during the pandemic, and it was with the Global Wellness Institute, and they were talking about dirty wellness. And it was a joke, but then I read something a few months ago that it was actually a movement. But calling it dirty wellness, that we need to get dirty. And we are spending so much time trying to stay clean and all the sanitation or the hand sanitizer.
It's really bad for the skin. It's bad for wastewater treatment. I mean, there are many, many things that go into that. And quite frankly, I just think you need to learn how to climb a tree.
I do too.
And go up and sit in a tree and read a book, which was one of my favorite things growing up. I was a little bit of a tomboy. So I'm an only child, and I was a total daddy's girl. So if my mom taught me to sew when I was 5, which she did, my dad taught me to shoot when I was 5, because he felt like every place along the way of growth, if society thought that something should be taught to a girl, he also taught it to me from the boy's perspective, in that I'm going to hopefully pour into you and rear you that you are capable of anything and shouldn't be limited by anything. And so I loved shooting with my dad and hiking and camping and being in the dirt as much as I love textiles and being with my mom and my grandma and my aunties and anybody who passed on the love of fiber arts. It sounds, I carry both sides.
I do too. It sounds, I'm the only child.
And
my parents did the exact same thing. So I love getting dressed up, and I love design, and I love things that are all beautiful. And then I love to trail run, and I love being out there for hours and dirt and I totally get it.
Being one with nature. Being Finn over here, right? You knew I was going to talk about you, right? You're doing such a good job of protecting the space while we're here.
I know.
I love it.
My co-host, he was on the trails this weekend.
Yeah,
my little trail buddy.
Yes. And he is looking great. We've talked about this before, because I know that he's had some health challenges, and whatever y'all are doing lately, he was jumping around like a 3-year-old when I got here, and that's beautiful.
Yes, I know. I'm so happy to see it. He's, one day I was sitting on the sofa, and he was jumping on the sofa. He jumps on the bed, but it was a low jump. Like he was barely making it onto the sofa and the bed. And that was for almost a year.
Yeah.
But he seemed fine. He wasn't in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And then the vet gave me some, I think I was telling you, the plant-based.
Some anti-inflammatory. And was it antispasmodic?
Yes, antispasmodic, and some pain meds. And I put half one in his food every night. And he launched onto the sofa one day. Yeah. And I looked at him, and I was like, Finn, your mother is so happy right now.
Yes. It's wonderful to see him all happy and jumpy. So.
I know.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, you brought some other stuff here.
Well, I just brought books because I think it's important to realize that just because something is popular and being talked about now doesn't mean that it's a new idea, right? So, I was quoting from Natural Capitalism earlier. And I am trying to remember, I believe it was the 90s that this came out.
Okay.
And 1999.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, 20-plus-year-old concept just on this natural capitalism approach, and not even as a built environment sort of
When
idea.
did Edward Wilson coin the term biophilia?
Was he late 80s?
But it was 80s.
87 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate to see him speak, as well as somebody that really looked up to him, which is Janine Benyus, who's also in the built environment. And she's really kind of making that connection from that that biophilic approach that E.O. Wilson started to how we use that in the built environment. And so I've been trying to catch her speaking at conferences for, more than 20 years on this particular subject too, because she talks about how materiality wise, we can do a better job. And then the biomimicry side of really looking at how do we create an exterior paint that means that all I have to do is paint the surface, and then whenever it rains, it washes off all of the dirt, and I don't need to power wash, or it doesn't harbor things that cause haze or mold or those kinds of buildup, right? And can we then also make that paint not only quote unquote self-cleaning like that, but can that paint also have some thermal qualities so that the interior environment is not attracting and retaining as much of the heat from the outside in the summertime? So it's really interesting to see a lot of the different approaches that people are using. Yeah. And even with some of the interior materials, you know, there are flooring companies, especially whether they're a carpet company or a sheet goods company, because again, I'm in healthcare, right? And so we do have to use flooring materials that are not necessarily 100% kosher or super environmentally responsible, but they do the best that they can to create the sustainable environment and still create the perfectly cleanable, scrubbable, sterile environment. But even flooring companies talk a lot about biophilia and biomimicry and trying to use elements of design or nature within the design and materiality of their products, so that they're doing their part to help designers add to the sort of resource box of components within the whole system to be as responsible as possible.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So healthcare is one of the first places that I saw biophilic design.
Right.
And a lot of research was done on how if there was a window or even a picture of a tree, that it would lower their medication, it would shorten their stay. They
stabilize blood pressure,
so amazing.
Help with even the that sort of experience of, like you were saying, shorten the stay, because I have better outcomes if I'm feeling better about the space that I am in where I'm convalescing. So you are exactly right. Healthcare was one of the early ones. There's a process in healthcare called plane tree, which I've been studying since the late 80s. And I've gotten to work on a couple of plane tree projects, and they are really patient and family centered care modes. But it's not just design. It's really like a whole holistic thing. And a lot of people might not know this, but VA hospitals have the option to sign on to become a plane tree certified space. But that means that they have to really rethink their administrative approach, their team members' approach, as well as the design of their spaces. And that comes down to just really interesting little things like, you know, it used to be when we were designing public space, we're designing the code minimum requirements for things like stairwells, right? And a lot of times they're emergency egress. They can only be located in certain spaces, and they have to be this width, and they, you know, that is what it is. So things like plane tree and even the well building approach encourage people to use stairs for their own health and well-being instead of elevators, right? It's certainly more electric and environmentally responsible, but it's good for exercise. If you do have potentially a sedentary job within the healthcare environment, it's a really good way to get the exercise. And so now we're seeing the idea that stairwells shouldn't be these ugly gray, just masonry,
back of the house,
back of the house kind of things. If you want people to actually utilize them, and if you want to train them that this is a great way to help achieve these things, you have to make it so that it's user friendly and attractive.
Little nudge design.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so
which I I love nudge design.
Hey, you know what? When we design commercial spaces, and especially companies that employ a lot of people, I spend a lot of time working with the leadership on what organizational changes have you been trying to incorporate that this project could better support.
Yeah.
Right. So there is no time like the present, but especially when you're going to redesign a space, to truly do it in a way that supports the internal relationships and communications that the companies are really in need of. And so it's a good opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and you find people are open to it.
They are, because they're already making change, right? And so, and I know you worked at a firm that was really big into this, but change management is a huge industry, and it's not just specific to architecture and design. You know, there are companies that need to undergo change management, whether it's because of mergers and acquisitions, bankruptcy proceedings. There's all kinds of things where there's a cultural shift that needs to happen, and you need people who help in that transition, and change management is a big part of that. We just end up naturally doing it as part of the design process if we're really invested in our clients and their people. I mean, there's always a percentage of people in the industry that are literally just like slapdash. They're just going to meet the code and they're just going to give you specs and that's it.
Sure.
And that happens too. But to really invest in your people as an organization, redesign of a space is a great way to also up the ante on the communications strategies.
And the interesting thing with design is that when you're designing for people, a lot of the times they don't know, they're not conscious of what's happening, but they'll have a completely different experience of a space that is so positive.
They'll walk in and just be like,
I
feel like I'm at home and I've never been here before.
Yeah.
I can't tell you
that's awesome.
How amazing. You know that feeling when you've designed spaces and people are like, this is exactly what I would have envisioned. I'm just not a designer and I never could have pulled it off. Because what are we? We're listeners, we're observers. And hopefully if we're doing our job in the design profession, and there are going to be some big companies that don't want to hear what I have to say, big architecture firms, but I am not a fan of having so many repeated elements and design touches that you walk into the space and immediately know who the designer is. Like, I don't want that in my space because it's not my ego and I'm not designing for me.
Interesting.
This really should be a customized solution for the people who are occupying the space.
Love that.
And it should really maybe not scream because some people don't want it to be loud and overt, but it should completely support the brand and what that company is trying to accomplish. And I don't feel that if I come through and put all of my, these are all my design touches and I have to check this box of what I include in a project every time, doesn't to me feel like it's a truly custom solution. And so, so there are certain details and sections and things that you keep in your library because there's no point in recreating those things that are code expected. But I am a huge fan of truly custom designs.
It's what Chinese medicine is.
Yeah.
Right?
It is beautiful the way I mean, your wall of herbs and how you really spend all this time. My guess is that when you're getting to know a patient, it's like programming in design. And you're going through a series of questions that will hopefully enlighten you in how they got to where they are so that you can understand where those challenges and things that might be off kilter. And then you combine your knowledge of all the resources available to create a customized solution. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's the only way to go, right? Because we're all different.
We are.
I talk a lot, especially on the podcast, I talk a lot about exercise and movement because I think it's one of the best things that you can do for your health, right?
Absolutely.
I run, right? But I can't go and say everybody should run 5 miles a day.
Right.
Like
I can't run, right? I have both knee and foot challenges. And so running is not an option for me, but boy, do I love walking in a new city when I get there.
You might be able to ride a bike, you could swim. There's so many other things that you can do that you have to find what works for you.
Yes.
And you have to do that, right? Not what somebody else is doing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So Finn has decided.
Finn is also our head of PR and greeting. And sometimes when folks come into the building, he likes to let them know that he is there.
I know.
He's fabulous.
He had something to say about that.
Yes, exactly. He's like, I'm just, I'm co-host and y'all weren't including me enough in this interview. And so I need to make sure that I am the co-host here. Kimberly, just the guest.
I know.
That's right. I'm sorry I took your seat.
Oh, Finn, making his presence known.
You know what though? I think it's beautiful and wonderful that, you're in a space where you can bring your animal to work, the take your dog to work day thing. And I, one of my favorite projects that I got to do lead consulting for, when they did a renovation, they had a lot of dogs. People were welcome to bring their dogs as long as it was super friendly. They had people, because they were right on a river, in downtown area. People would kayak to work.
That's awesome. I love that.
Like we actually had a place for
awesome.
bike storage and kayak storage. And it was an interesting thing because in the lead process, it's like they want bike storage as part of the sustainable sites and transportation and reduction. They loved it when we turned in the certification that we showed that because of the location to the river and the kayak, they were like, that's a great innovative add to that particular point.
Wow.
So,
I'd kayak to work.
Right? That would be so cool. Like Finn in the front telling you where to go.
Yeah. We kayaked. When we went to Austin, I took him kayaking on Lake Austin, and he had his little life jacket on.
Yeah.
And he did. We'd do it. We would do it. I would walk to work. I'm 2 miles, so it's a little too far. I thought about biking, but I always have my computers and I have this stuff that I have to lug around and sheets. And
it's also most unfortunate that here in Houston, we've become such a car culture that biking here, there's some real safety challenges and folks do not respect the two-wheelers. They don't give you the space. I mean, even with the ordinance that you got to give a cyclist 3 feet of space, people don't do it. It's really bad.
When I trained for Ironman, I did a lot of my training in the woodlands and I was on the bike and we ran into a lot of that and it was scary, like that people don't realize that you are on a 1/2-inch tire and that one wrong movement, you're going down.
You're spilling. Yes. And just like with motorcycles, stopping distances, they're different than vehicles, than, an enclosed car. And so understanding that is crucial to safe roads.
I think they're putting a bike lane on Shepherd.
Ooh,
I think.
That would be awesome.
I think.
Yeah. Well, Shepherd has been torn up the entire 10 years that I've lived here. It's not as bad as I-45, which has been torn up the entire 40 plus years my husband's been around here. But Shepherd is constantly under construction.
So it's on this side. Okay. It's torn up, and now they're going to go all the way to the Heights.
Yes. Well, I think that would be amazing. You should also check out, if you haven't already, the Columbia Tap Rail to Trail.
Oh, I've run that.
Wonderful. Yeah. And there's more improvements happening. So I'm a Rotarian and the Rotary Club of Houston Skyline is doing what's called Dakota's Grove, which was named after one of their members who passed very young. But he was really big into the environment and he'd created an environmental app for them. And so the Peace Grove there, it's trees that were planted and extra benches that were added to really create that connection, because there are parts of that trail that run parallel to very low income neighborhoods. But because of the way it was designed, they don't have access to that trail because it's got a ditch on one side and they can't cross over that, like in the CUNY Homes Third Ward areas. And so they're looking at they've been doing these really interesting sort of urban interactions where people will like come up and build a bridge, just a footbridge, so people can actually have that connection from the neighborhood. And we're seeing more of those activities. But
I'm trying to run down it right now because I've run that.
Yeah.
several times.
Yeah.
All the way into U of H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's amazing, and it's a reclamation of an old rail trail, right? And so the whole idea is of repurposing something into a community amenity that is very helpful for both that natural connection, but also to try to give people alternative transportation modes that are safer than just being on the streets all the time.
I'm trying to think of the ditch. I can't really.
I think because in some neighborhoods, you're just not looking at how those areas connect. And sometimes where the trail is, you don't necessarily see that or perceive that because you have a different perspective than if you were in the neighborhood trying to look at how do I get onto this thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure I'll run it again at some point.
Will.
So I'll be more mindful of that.
Yeah. And see if you see any of those pop up, like
I will
footpath crossings.
I'll take a picture
or places where maybe people have taken some fence down, just because I think it's really interesting. People, they're asking for forgiveness instead of permission because they've been asking for permission for so long and nobody's been listening. They're like, we're taking this into our own hands.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens.
That's community design right there.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
So
probably should start wrapping it up here, but I want to ask you, what do you think the biggest challenge is moving in this direction, being more sustainable, being more thoughtful, mindful?
The biggest challenge is the myth that it costs more and it's harder. And that's why when we talk about educating and elevating the conversation, whether for Houston Hemporium and that being about the hemp and the cannabis plant in general, or whether it is about being more sustainable and not supporting fast fashion, the idea that it is more costly is really just a short-term focus on that upfront cost rather than the true cost of ownership. Like heirloom pieces last longer. They don't have to be repaired. They don't have to be replaced. So they cost more upfront, but the cost of ownership, what we call in construction and design, the life cycle analysis, that is where, because we don't have true cost of goods presented to us in the first place. Like, first of all, fashion shouldn't be cheap. Food shouldn't be cheap. It's the subsidies that have taken place. It's the degradation of the places where the raw materials are taken from that we haven't been paying the true cost all along. And so I think that if we can get people past those myths, or that it's going to be hard, or that it's like I'm a meat lover and you're asking me to become a vegan. No, I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm asking you to know where your meat comes from and how it's reared and how it's slaughtered so that you know that you are getting the best possible nutrients and the least stressed animal. Right? So.
No. And I think that's education, right?
Absolutely.
Which is
it's
what we're doing.
always about education.
Which is what we're doing right here, right?
Yes. And so it's funny. It's probably one of the reasons that I married a professional educator, is that I love education. I love, that's my husband's specialty is higher ed and really focusing on educating the next generation and helping them to see what possibilities are.
Yeah. So do you have any tips?
For what? I had
we've talked about a lot. I know we've talked about a lot. I think the big part of our conversation has been on sustainability. So do you have any tips on how someone can be more sustainable
personally?
So
I used to have these little like top 10 tips cards that one for businesses and one for residences, because I would do articles and things like that. Even in the home. And I realized that this is where you're going to see a really interesting difference between Western raised cultures and others. We don't wear shoes in our house. My husband is half Vietnamese. And so in traditional Southeast Asian form, the shoes are back by the door because you don't bring in the outside into your indoor environment. And a lot of folks don't realize just how dirty their houses become just by wearing their outside shoes inside. You can change to house slippers or just go barefoot or wear socks or whatever. But that means that you can vacuum less, which also is less of a strain on the filtration system of your HVAC because you don't have all that particulate matter going through there. And so those little steps really do add up, not to be cliche, but just, everybody's going to conferences or community events and you're getting all these free bags, right? So just keep a stash of those reusable bags in your vehicle so that you don't get to the grocery store and be like, damn it, I forgot my bags again, right? Just rotate your stash. I bring them in and I wash them every once in a while and I'll rotate them back through. Those little steps are helpful. If you are in a place where you can go to a farmer's market or connect with local farmers and buy your food locally, that's another huge step. Is healthy eating is great, but local eating is really key because if you're eating seasonally, you're getting the best food. But having it not travel hundreds, if not thousands of miles means it's more nutrient dense. It tastes better. It's fresher. And you haven't burned all of these carbon fuels in order to get it to you. And so even those little things, if you can tick those off on a personal basis, even if where you live doesn't offer recycling, I mean, it would be ideal if you separated trash from recycling, but I understand that there are some places that don't have that. So just being conscientious of what you use.
Well, a couple of things. One, we have the Eastside Farmers Market. And then a service that I really like is farmhouse delivery. Have you heard of them?
I have not. So I'm terrible because I don't watch television. And so if there's things
they're based out of Austin.
Oh, cool.
They have connections with all the local farmers. And so they will actually deliver it to you if you can't make it to the farmer's market.
Hey,
because the farmer's market is what, Saturday?
Well, that's the thing is different markets are on different days. A lot of them are when people are working. Or, when it is on a Saturday, you can't necessarily get there because like your kid's got sports or piano lessons or whatnot. So that's great. I will say the most favorite design projects that I've ever done are community food co-ops. Anytime that you can create a healthy space to connect people with local food, like community food co-ops, I love that because it's checking all the boxes.
What's the co-op that you're?
So the one that I'm associated with is in Northern Nevada. It's called Great Basin Community Food Co-op. And they've been around for a number of years, and they are such an extraordinary community hub for local farmers to bring their food in. And then either have local restaurateurs come and get the products in bulk, or as a member of a co-op, then coming and being able to shop. And it is not more costly when you do it that way, but you have to know how you use things and if you're going to buy in bulk and that sort of a thing. But
I think I'm thinking Shauna. Shauna's associated with a co-op here, but I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know. I know that there is one in the Heights, but it's not truly a co-op in the sense that you can have a membership, but it is privately owned, whereas a true co-op or a cooperative is all member owned, right? And so every member is an owner in that, and they vote on things, and they have, that share represents their voice in the organization. Whereas the co-op that I've used here, Central City, it's great. Beautiful stuff, really neat people, but it is privately held and you buy a membership into it. So it's a different format. But I'm not against that at all. And I've had a membership, so I think it's great. But there are, I really love the community ones. I think if we could figure out a way to get more food co-op opportunities in the Third Ward and Sunnyside neighborhoods so that we can get better access to fresh local foods for our communities that don't have that connection, that would be wonderful.
That's amazing. What was the last point that you said? You said take off the shoes.
Take off the shoes. Some people, they can do their
recycling
a little bit. Recycling, separating your products, knowing what is and isn't recyclable in your area.
So Houston. So I used to have recycle at my apartment. When I first moved here, and they, for some reason, they stopped doing it on our side of the street, but it was on the other side of the street. So I live. It's bizarre. So I started, there was a recycle center up here off of Kirby.
Yep.
You know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
So I would take my stuff there.
Yeah.
Then they closed it.
I saw that.
Yes.
We loved that too.
So I was like, okay, I cannot win here, you know? And so the recycling center that's closest to me is off of West Park. Mm-hmm. But even though it's like 3 miles away, it takes forever to get there.
It's a real trek.
Yeah.
It's a real trek.
So I just stopped. But
yeah. And you know what? I'm not suggesting this for everyone, but we live in a townhome.
Yeah.
And so I actually did invest in one of those new countertop composters because I love my coffee and espresso.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to try to do my part as a city dweller of minimizing my food waste. Mm-hmm. And so far it's working really well. I love it.
So you just put it in your garden?
I do. I've got containers. Mm-hmm. And so, and I don't necessarily put it directly in. I try to have a bigger bin of soil so that I can mix the compost in, and it denatures a little bit further and has more time out, and then add it in. But it is a great amendment, and I feel better about not contributing to food waste.
I just looked up recycled coffee grounds to see like what I could use it for.
Plants do really like coffee grounds and teas. You can create your own plant tea or plant coffee. It's not going to be as nice forte as the ones we drink, but there's definitely good components for them.
Well, I'm gonna learn because I just got a new espresso machine. And it's a nice one, and I paid a lot up front, but I go to the coffee shop every day.
That's right. $5 a day adds up. It really does. And because of the pandemic, a lot of coffee shops stopped allowing us to reuse our own mugs. Yes. And I totally understand that. I respect health departments and sanitation. I absolutely, but it's disheartening for me because I love using my own cup. Wherever I go, this thing has been around the world with me. As you can see, it's beaten up.
It's great. It has character.
It totally has character because I want to not create that single-use waste whenever possible. So
that's what I'm working on right now.
Espresso.
I know.
Love it.
I'm excited about it. So, and I'm learning how to make espresso with the pressure, the right amount of pressure.
All the bars and everything. Yes. So it's fun learning new things though too, because you get to try a lot of trial and error. Do you take notes? Are you actively oh, this was great, this was not?
No, I just make mental notes, and I was trying to get the crema on top. Mm-hmm. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
So I finally got that this morning.
Oh, yay! I love the crema. So
yes, good. I'm super excited about that, and so I've been working on that for 2 days. So I'm excited. So I think I've got it dialed in just right. Awesome. So I'm going to start playing around with different beans and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So very nice.
Well, let's wrap this up. This has been fantastic. You are a wealth of knowledge. And I would love for you to come back because we didn't touch on hemp. I would love to talk more about CBD.
Yes.
Education does need to happen around that. It is a trend. A lot of people are using CBD products. And I think the more educated we are about them, the better choices that we can make, right?
And I would say let's do something later in the year because for those who are not in Texas, our legislature here in Texas only meets once every 2 years on the odd year and only from January through May, right? Okay. And so the legislature meets again in 2023. So we're going to know this fall which potential bills are starting to be authored and cooked up so that they can be presented. And we may have some updates on what's happening in hemp and cannabinoids and cannabis industry in general in Texas closer to the end of the year.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well,
sounds great.
I'll put you on the list of ideas and then we'll connect and we'll do that. But this has been fantastic. And again, you're a wealth of knowledge. I'd love for you to come back and we can dive into some other stuff because biophilic design is a topic of this podcast because I believe your environment greatly impacts your health and wellness.
Yep.
And so it will be an ongoing discussion.
Sounds great. I'm excited. Can't wait to come back.
Yay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sheri.
Bye.
Bye.
So, what did you all think? I am grateful Kimberly shared her passion of design and sustainability with us. I learned a lot, and it gave me a new perspective on the impact our built environments can have on us and the planet. And I am already thinking how I can be more mindful of my living and working environment now and in the future. Okay, well, that's a wrap. So let me know your thoughts. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends. You can also give me a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps other people find me as well. To get updates on new episodes and wellness inspiration in your inbox, please join the Wellness Inspired community. Go to wellnessinspiredpodcast.com to sign up. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can click and join. Also, there is a Facebook community at The Wellness Inspired, and you can follow me on Instagram at wellness_inspired. If you're in the Houston area or visiting and interested in acupuncture, herbal medicine, cupping, or dry needling, please contact us. You can find out more on our website at element5om.com. That's element5, the number 5om.com. And again, I'll put the link in the show notes. If you're interested in health and wellness coaching, we can connect in the clinic or on Zoom. Reach out to us and we'll get you on the schedule. And as always, I would love to hear your feedback. I am dedicated to bringing you great content that is inspiring and informative with an artsy, fun, and edgy spin. Thank you so much for listening. We'll meet here again next time. And remember, never stop exploring, learning, loving, and being you. Bye.